Where will the tech talent come from? We're going to look at one program that is 10 years in on the development of youth tech skills today on Culture Builder Live. Hey, I'm Chris Wink. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Technically, the news organization with a community of technologists and entrepreneurs. Over 15 years of reporting, we spent a whole lot of time looking at the pathways for tech careers, specific to software, but in many forms, how and where and what the programs look like that get us there. Today, we're going to look at one that's celebrating 10 years this year and learn a bit about the program. So to do that, I'm thrilled to be joined by Emmanuel Offiong. He is let's see if I can get it right, the VP and CTO of Small Business Banking over at CapitalOne. Emmanuel, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Excited to be here.
Yeah. And I thank you for getting on and having a conversation. I love diving deep on how these programs work. So let's start with the CapitalOne Coders program. 10 years this year it marks. So just give us the basics. We're going to look widely at how these programs work, and specifically on this one, start us with the specifics. What is the CapitalOne Coders program?
Yeah, thank you. CapitalOne Coders is a program that was actually started by our CIO, Rob Alexander. We partner with public schools and other youth-serving nonprofits to help students cultivate a greater interest in computer science during a really critical time in their development. It's typically about a 10-week program where we have CapitalOne volunteers work directly with students, building mentoring relationships, inspiring confidence, and helping them to explore technology through design thinking and coding.
So I want to go all over the place on how this and other programs work, but like start with, give me some of the people. We always technically like the people stories. I'm sure you guys have these. Help me out. What are some people stories that stand out to you when you look at this program you oversee?
Yeah, there's a ton of them. So think about it. We're in middle schools and we're helping middle schoolers learn about technology. And I can't mention their names, but there's been so many cases of middle school parents actually coming to us and saying, "Hey, listen, because of you, my child now has an interest in studying computer science at a higher level," and that's just exciting to me. I think we actually now have our first case of someone who was in coders and actually came into our internship program
Mm.
and is now going to be a part of the pipeline for CapitalOne. So we're really excited about that.
Mm. Yeah, and I was looking over material. You guys talk about 150 communities over the 10-year period, about a dozen that you guys are serving right now. Count 22,000 students have some engagement with the program. Is there one story, even if you don't use names, is there one story that for you is salient? Maybe it is this one you just hit on, that someone went through the program and did end up in your own internship program. And yeah, you don't need to use names, but is that a story that just resonates with you when you try to think about why this program matters?
That's a good one. Another one is this was in the Richmond Public Schools. One of the teachers actually told us about one of their students that was developing programs on their own time, and that really blew our minds. And I looked at some of the programs that this kid was developing, and quite frankly, they were pretty advanced for her age.
Yeah. And why does that mean anything to you? Do you
Yeah. Because for me personally, one of the things that I am excited about is getting students excited about computer science. My background, I grew up in networking, so on the infrastructure side of the house. I
Mhm.
got into coding when I got to Amazon. Amazon, even the HR folks are expected to code.
Mm.
So um, for me, I love to see folks get excited about solving problems. Software development is one of those areas where you can actually go in and solve critical problems. And so for me, it's exciting to see folks do that.
So let's set the context of why any of this matters. I've spent
Yep.
15 years of a reporting career. We care about tech skills for a pair of reasons, at least.
Yep.
One, it is still a growth portion of our economy. So when we're talking about where just the economic needs are, there's a skills, degrees, and role mismatch. So we just want to reallocate folks into this portion of our economy that's growing. And then it has this subtext of a moral imperative that we've seen because there's a skills demand, those that demand has tended to bid up salaries. So we
Yeah.
tended to assume if we get kids from different socioeconomic backgrounds, into portions of the economy that have a demand. It both checks the needs we have as an economy, but also has some transformative opportunities for folks who might be coming from different socioeconomic backgrounds. Poorer kids tracked into not just service roles, but roles that have real salary demand. So is it kind of a mission social good and also a very real imperative? You sit at an interesting role. You can have personal passion for a thing like this, but you also sit with budgetary responsibilities. And I got to assume at any given time, you're given a spreadsheet and said, hey, Coda's program costs us this in staff
Yeah.
time and program costs or whatever.
Yep.
And you have to balance the, hey, it makes me feel good. Hey, we can put out a good press release with what is the real, at the end of the day, business case. So I guess talk to me a bit about how you balance that. Sitting, I want to know the real talk of how someone balances this. I
Yeah.
can feel good about it. It's nice to
Yep.
talk about these kids. What's also the actual, at the end of the day, the business case for why this stays as a part of my spreadsheet?
Yeah, so I can't share how much we've actually invested in the
Sure.
Coders program, but I can tell you about our impact initiative. So it's a $200 million multi-year commitment that we launched in 2020, where we strive to advance socioeconomic mobility and create a world where everyone has equal opportunity to prosper through advocating for an inclusive society. Coders is a huge part of that. We're also using Coders as a way to build more brand awareness as we strive to be a tech company that that offers financial products. One of the things that we found extremely useful is creating a brand, a tech brand, earlier in the lives of students, and Coders helps us do that. Our goal, our mission is that we get middle schoolers excited about solving problems through technology and want to go study, computer science in college, and hopefully come and join Capital One to solve some really big problems here at Capital One.
There's for at least, I don't know, 10, probably more like 20 years, I've seen these frequent comparisons to youth sports that in the United States, we want a lot of kids to play soccer, not because we think everyone's going to become a professional soccer player, but one, there's just basic skills of you know team camaraderie and discipline and a bit of health outcomes for it. And also, you do hope if you start early enough, you find a few people with incredible kind of passion for skills in the thing, and then you end up with that great basketball player, the great soccer player, the great baseball player, whatever. And so for 10 plus years, I've heard the comparison made on tech skills that you want to do a similar thing that expose more kids to tech skills. Not everyone's going to actually be a software engineer, but there's some nice skills, some comfortability with math. There's basic stuff, and you do hope to find more of those folks inside any given community who do have a predilection for that. Does that map for how you think about this? Of hey, this is a good old fashioned corporate social good program. Some kids are just getting some mentorship, even if they never use software again. But hey, we sure do hope we might find a couple stars that go really deep in that. Is that a fair kind of assessment of it?
That is, it really is. I really love the sports analogy. According to code.org, computing jobs are the number one source of new wages in the US. There's currently over 500,000 job openings in this field, which are projected to grow at about twice the rate of all other jobs. However, when we look at how many computer grads are actually entering the workforce, last year we only had 90,000 computer science grads enter the workforce. So Coders was created based on this increased demand for technical talent, especially for software engineers. And with fewer students, especially from underrepresented groups pursuing coursework in STEM, we think Coders is a way to help students cultivate a greater interest in computer science, especially during a critical time of their development, and by leveraging the great talent of our own associates.
Now, I'm quite sure you're not going to be able to respond to part of what I'm about to say, but you don't need to, because I talk to enough CTOs and enough organizations that I know part of your day is sitting with, hey, what's going to happen with this whole AI thing, and what does GitHub Copilot and a ton of transformative tools do about the efficiency and productivity of my tech team? I don't need you to comment on that. Don't worry. But I know part of your life includes that because everyone's does right now. You'd be
Absolutely.
irresponsible if it didn't. And then you also sit over this program that is a long-term pipeline that you don't know what will change about this workforce. How much can in your brain those two worlds intersect? Like, who am I hiring for in the next 18 months versus how do I oversee this like program that's looking years and years into the future? Do those two things enter your world of like my today and my investments in tomorrow?
Yeah, they do. They do. As we think about AI and data science, machine learning, I grew computer science there as well. These are all STEM careers that are increasing the demand for talent. All of them require a strong background in mathematics, statistics, data science, programming, and more. In addition to these basic skills, the next generation needs to also work on critical thinking, problem solving. And to address this, we think that Capital One Coders gives them problems to solve, real life problems to solve. And through hands-on learning, through being able to develop mentors and develop greater confidence in their own skills, we see that these students are now starting to learn technology through design, thinking, and coding. And so I think there is a great overlap, but I also think these skills are complementary to each other.
Mm. Do you have your own, like tech origin story that, you working on computers as a kid? Is there someone, family, friend, neighbor that gets you into it? Do you have any of your own early memories of how you get down this rabbit hole?
I do. I'm a son of Nigerian immigrant parents, and anybody who knows anything about Nigerian parents, you're either a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. And my parents wanted me to be a doctor, and I'd gone down the path, and I realized
What a disappointment you are, Emmanuel.
I realized that I really didn't do great with the sight of blood, and so being in the health services field probably wasn't in the cards for me. But what I did realize was that I loved to take things apart. I love to take big problems, dissect them into smaller problems, and solve them. And so that's what drew me into sort of this critical problem solving, right? Taking bigger problems and breaking them into smaller problems and solving them. That's what drew me to software engineering.
Can you paint me a picture? Where did you grow up, or like, do you have an early memory for me of when you it started clicking for you, or like where were you? Give me a picture of when tech clicks for you.
Sure. So I actually was born in DC. As most actually Nigerian immigrants would do in the 60s, 70s. They'd come to the States, get educated, and go back. So I was born in DC, but my parents went to Nigeria to raise their family and provide a better life for them. So I went to high school in Nigeria, and that's when I was sort of encouraged to study medicine, and so I was in medical school in Nigeria. All the while realizing this wasn't sort of my passion. So I come back to the States, and I go to school, and I realize I'm just so much better at math. I'm so much better at computer science. I'm so much better at logic and thinking. And so that's what really sort of pushed me onto the computer science track.
Where in DC were you born?
Washington, D.C. T Street, yeah.
Shout out. And you came back, it was like when you were in like undergrad in the States that it clicked?
Yep. Undergrad in the States.
Do you have this moment of like a class or do you have any memory that stands out to you? Like, that's when it clicked for me?
I just remember being in one of the statistics, the math classes, statistics, and just, doing much better than it seems like I'm bragging, but doing like a lot better than a lot of my peers because it came very natural to me. Like mathematics came really natural to me. And the sciences like physics and chemistry just seemed a little more tedious.
Heard. All right, I'm going to lose you here in a sec. I like this. I love hearing the career pathways, Emmanuel. So send me out with some lessons, and this means either if you got to go back to 10 years ago when this program stood up, or if you're talking to a friend that's in a similar role as yours in another organization that they want to stand up something like this. What's some of your advice to getting this right and balancing what you have, which is demands of, I got to run a day-to-day operation. I got to do this program that feels good, but I also have to make a case for why it lasts. Talk to me a bit about what you would tell a friend doing the same.
Yeah, I think some of our earlier lessons were around, we go into these public schools with ambition, with eagerness, and quite frankly, some of these schools are not equipped to help us help the students. And so being a little bit more selective about the schools we went into, being a little bit more intentional about where we actually invested our energies, I think are some of the lessons that we've picked up along the way.
Emmanuel, that's going to work great. Right on time. Emmanuel Offiong, he is the VP and CTO of Small Business Bank at Capital One. Emmanuel, thank you for being here.
Chris, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And happy anniversary to the 10 years of the many people who I know helped make Capital One Coders program work. Always interested in how we're watching these workforce programs evolve. Awesome. Thank you, Emmanuel. See you next time.
Thanks, Chris.
See everyone.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.